the moon in the late 50s. And, one of the interesting things that Dr. Werner von Braun said at his retirement party in the middle 70s was he made a cryptic statement. He said, it's too bad Vanguard had to be the scapegoat. And I think what he was telling us was that he was part of a program that was so far advanced, but his name was associated with Vanguard, and all people remember is that thing kept blowing up on the pad, going up 20 feet, and exploding and toppling over, and I think that's what he was referring to.
Well, I think that was to keep the public's attention. It's well known amongst those who really do real research, and most researchers are people who call themselves researchers that don't even know what the word means. But there's several references in several books and texts that are not well known to the public that disclose the existence of a secret space program that even had a director of space and was administered mainly under the Navy, Department of the Navy, through DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And the public, of course, was told that NASA was the only space program when in fact Eisenhower had established a secret space program by executive order in the early 50s. What have you learned about that, John?
Along the similar lines, as a matter of fact, to keep it secret, I think that between 1955 and 1958, it was illegal to mention the word space in any publications in the United States. They were so afraid that the public would find out how far along they were, and only with the advent of Vanguard that were these horrible examples of our technology were being shown to the public, so that they would think that there's no possible way that we could have advanced like we did. And so I agree with you. There certainly was a secret program going on at that time.
Well, what brings the development of technology really home to me is my great-grandmother, who's no longer living, but I remember as a boy she would tell me stories of her trip across the United States from the East Coast in a covered wagon, and her first home on the West Texas prairie was a dugout with a sod roof, and she told me stories of the Indian Wars and all kinds of things, and she lived to see the development of the Boeing 707 and all the modern accoutrements of our society today. And I was always dumbstruck by this. I just could not imagine how people who went through that much of a transition in technology in their life could even keep their sanity, much less understand what was happening. So your father made a lot of references, and I understand that he was on a television show or something. Was it in the 60s, John?
The late 50s, in a press conference, I think it was from Colombia, it was from South America, that flying saucers are real and they were piloted by highly intelligent beings. Is this the one you're referring to?
Well, that's one, but the one I was more specifically referring to was the statement he made on television. Someone asked him, and I think it was on television, I'm not sure, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but someone asked him on television, since he was involved in the defense industrial establishment, just exactly where was the state of technology and what could we expect to see within the next 5 or 10 years. And the quote that I have is he said that you would be able to get into a phone booth in Los Angeles and step out in New York City.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that happened in the late 50s. It was a television or radio program. I can't remember what.
Well, a lot of people don't pay any attention to that, but I know that this man, your father, was on the inside of the inner circle of the people who were developing the state-of-the-art of the technology of the world. And I think if he made that statement, he was talking about something that was either in the state of preliminary development or may have already been a reality. But, of course, those of us who served in the intelligence community, I was in the Office of Naval Intelligence, and you've been connected with the Central Intelligence Agency and the Joint Chiefs. We know that in secret they're at least 50 to 100 years ahead of anything that the public sees as the state of the art of any technology.
No question about it. No question about it.
And that's why when people tell me that we don't have a laser scalpel that can make surgical cuts like they find on these mutilated animals that's portable, I just laugh at them. I don't let them know that I'm laughing at them. They think I'm just laughing because it's funny. But I'm laughing because they really tend to believe that what they see as the state of the art in the public sector is really the state of the art of technology. And it's not at all. It's way behind.
Well, certainly if my dad wasn't, and of course neither one of us probably ever know whether he was directly involved with that state of technology, he certainly had friends that were, specifically Hoyt Vandenberg, who was original director of the CIA, used to be around the house all the time, Jimmy Doolittle, who was definitely connected with the SOTS program. He was sent over to Sweden to investigate the ghost rockets, and he had a very heavy involvement in the later years with the SOTS program. People have asked me if my dad was involved in anti-gravity research. Of course, if he was born in 1942, and we're talking about like 55, which would make me 13 or 14 years old, he certainly wouldn't have told me anything. So I have no knowledge of that. Talking with my mother, he used to make trips to Fort Huachuca, and it seems that Fort Huachuca was the central area for some very classified technology research, possibly having to do with anti-gravity, but that's as far as I can trace it now. If I had become interested in this subject just a few years earlier, I would have been able to talk with the chief physicist at Lear Incorporated, who was a guy named Niels Eklund, Scandinavian, and a very competent guy.
Is he still alive, Joe?
No, unfortunately, like I say, he died just before I got into this research, or I would have been able to find out from him some
I see.
really good information. But he passed away, I believe, in 1982 or 83.
Well, I know that you've had some contact with some of the more famous or infamous, depends upon which way you look at it, people in the so-called UFO community, which I think is a misnomer. And a lot of these people who call themselves ufologists, which in every case is self-appointed and requires no requirements, no education. That's right. Right. What can you tell me about some of these people? What can you tell our listeners?
Well, it just seems that there's so many self-appointed researchers who spew forth so much BS about so much stuff that, I've kind of gotten out of the field myself to the extent that I may give 1 or 2 lectures a year, that I no longer, as I did at one time, believe the public should be told, because I don't think they would understand the basic, the religious ramifications of what's going on. Might confuse them as to what is really going on, and I don't think they can sort this out or need to sort it out on a daily basis.
So that's assuming that extraterrestrials are a reality, which they may not be.
Definitely may not be. Yeah. Who knows for real who these are? I've heard many stories.
Well, I used to think that they were real. As you well know, I saw documents when I was in the Office of Naval Intelligence that said they were real.
And it's possible that they are, but there's also stories of people who have been abducted who have caught their supposed aliens taking off masks or helmets
and turning into military personnel. Yes, I've also run into those people also, and I've looked into the possibility that this whole thing is a tremendous mind control operation in order to convince the public of the world, the mass consciousness of humanity, that the Earth is being threatened by some other species from some other planet, which Ronald Reagan stated in 6 of his speeches during his administration, which is way too many times for me to believe that it was real. It's more like just putting it into people's minds I looked into the development of mind control techniques, and they are so far advanced that mind control is no longer experimental. It's fully operational. And from what I understand, from my contacts, and from what I've been able to read in the leaks and the documents released under the Freedom of Information Act, that no part of mind control remains experimental anymore, and that they can literally remove sections of memory as if it never occurred and put in its place a different memory, as if they're running a movie in your head, and they can actually put in suggestions or orders that this will not come up, you will not remember this until some outside stimulus is encountered, and then the mind is overwhelmed by these incredible memories that in actual fact never happened. In particular, I remember reading and studying mind control projects by the Office of Naval Intelligence, where they were actually putting together and ran an assassination bureau for many years, and these people who were actually the assassins were ordinary people that they would pick according to some standard formula, put them through the brainwashing experience where they would implant in their mind the ability and the desire to kill upon order, and they would go about their normal everyday business not even knowing that they were part of this until the stimulus was given to them and they were given an order to carry out an assassination, and they would go and do this. What do you know about all this, John? Are you there?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about these mind control programs?
Well, you're 100% correct. It works just like that. I was reading a book called Operation Mind Control just the other day, in which a guy asked for people, military people, who felt that they had been subject to mind control experiments, and there was a Air Force officer who felt that he was having some problems in later life after he retired, and it evolved from the fact that his whole career, or at least the 5 years that he thought he was stationed in Guam, running a weather station, when he retired, he was honorably discharged, and he was shown a whole raft of commendations and medals that he had earned, and there was no explanation for that, and he said, could I have those? And they said, no, these will be withheld until you need them, and at that time, it will be explained to whoever needs to see these what exactly happened. So this guy obviously was a lot more than he was aware of. Up at the Nevada test site, certainly this mind control works to a great degree, whereas people can remember flying up and flying back, but they can't remember what they did. The mind control is so advanced that it doesn't, they have it to the point where it doesn't bother people when they come back, say, to Las Vegas, and they interact with their children and their wives and lead a normal daily life. They don't question that they can't remember what they did. It's highly, highly advanced. We were working with an engineer, a female engineer who worked with Lockheed, who was having just a little bit of problem because she couldn't remember a lot of what she did during the day. And I think that they were not too successful in the mind control program there because she did realize that there were same things going on. But it is highly, highly evolved. People would be just shocked to know how far advanced it has become.
Well, it's time for a break, folks. Don't go away. We'll be right back, right after this very short pause. John, when I first started my crusade, I guess that's what you can call it, to try to wake people up, I had a tremendous faith in the American people that all that had to happen was for someone to open their eyes and show them that the normal everyday world that they live in is really a fantasy land, and then they would sort of take it from there, and it's not happening. A lot of people are waking up. I have to give those people credit because back in 1988, 1987, when I first was looking around, in 1988 when I first came public with what I knew, Sometimes I would travel 1,000 miles to sit in the living room and talk to 3 people, if I could find 3 people that wanted to sit in the living room and listen to what I had to say. And now, when I go to a city, sometimes I can fill places as large as the Salt Dome with people who are interested in wanting to know what's happening. But when you consider